Hey guys, what's going on? Jacob here. So last time we got an introduction to the document object model, or DOM, and we learned how we can change elements and their styles. In today's video, we'll continue down that path, learning about events, event listeners, adding alerts, and animations. So let's get started. One of the crucial parts of JavaScript is reacting to different events on the page. That is, any keystrokes, clicks, hovering, etc. A common example of an event is the onClick event. This, like other JavaScript events, has two parts. The first is the attribute in a tag of an element that the user can click on. The value of this attribute will be a JavaScript function that we'll define. Then in the JavaScript, we define that function and give it something to do. In this case, let's make a button that changes the background color from black to white. See? Not too hard. Other events we can have are onLoad with the body element or onChange with form elements. I've included a link to a list of all the JavaScript events in the description below. In addition to events, JavaScript also has event listeners. These work similar to the events we just learned about, but it keeps all the code inside of the JavaScript. The way you can add an event listener is by calling an element like we learned about last time, then a dot, and add event listener. This function accepts two parameters. The first is an event to listen for. Again, a list of those events is in the description below. The next is a callback function that runs when the event happens. So in order to change our example from earlier, all we have to do is call the element, then set click as the event to listen for, and then our callback function. All of our code is in the same place, and you can add as many event listeners as you want to an element. You can also show pop-up alerts on the page as well, although I will say you probably should limit the use of them on live sites. I hate websites with a ton of alerts, especially on mobile, and I'm pretty sure that you do too. But they can be useful if done right. And if you're trying to debug something and don't want to use the console, they're a great second option. And creating an alert is super simple. All you need to do is call window.alert and then the thing that you want in the alert box as the sole parameter. In fact, all you really need to do is call the alert function. Then when you go to the page, the alert will pop up when it's called in the code. There are also a few variations with the alert box. You can ask for a yes or no input with confirm, and prompt shows an alert box with an input field for the user to fill out. Now I want to talk about alerts and modals because they're similar but pretty different. Modals different because they're actual elements on the page but aren't shown until they're called, usually by pressing a button. They're also much easier to style because they're actual elements on a page and not something the browser shows. Modals can also be pretty tricky to build, but frameworks like Bootstrap and Foundation have great support for them. Finally, let's go over some basic animation with JavaScript. The first thing that we need to do is go over the setInterval function. This function takes two parameters, another function to call, and a time in milliseconds. It'll call that function at an interval you define with the time. So this function will be called every 5 seconds. Now we'll use that to create an animation going across the page. So first we set up the container and the element that will be changed. Then we set up the starting styles for each of them. Next in the JavaScript we set an animation element to a variable, and then set a position variable to 0. Next, we had our setInterval function, and we'll set an interval of 5 milliseconds. Next, in our callback function, we'll first run a check to see if the sprite or object that's being moved across the page is outside of the container div. If it is, we stop the animation. If not, we increase the position by 1 and set that to be the new left position of the element. Now let's go to the page and see what it looks like. Pretty cool, eh? Feel free to play around with this and learn more about the animations you can do with JavaScript. Well, that's all for today. Next time we'll go over jQuery and JSON. Do you have any questions over what we went over today? If so, feel free to leave them down in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. But until next time, good luck and happy coding.